Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, wanted to discuss news about E&Y changing their reporting structure in Europe. This news came out a while ago, but it's actually going to take place on July 1st. E&Y is going to centralize their management structure across Europe and other regions. To me, this isn't that big of a deal. I mean, E&Y says they're going to do it because of it's going to allow them to collaborate better and serve their clients, which I think makes perfect sense to me. But there's people on the interweb, on the internet, that are talking about how this is just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. And I think it was City AM that had a accounting professor that said that. And the reason he's saying that is because, as you might know, E&Y has a lot of issues with their audit of Wirecard in Germany, and the partners are worried about having to pay for that in other regions. But I think this makes more sense to me. And I think whether or not the Wirecard penalty becomes an issue, I think the other branches of the firm have to end up paying for it because it damages their brand. They probably have to infuse capital. So I think either way that happens. And I think the amount of money lost in those cases is not significant. I mean, the Big Four have insurance for this type of stuff. It might not cover everything, but it will cover something. And the Big Four accounting firms have way more to win by being more collaborative than they have to lose by sharing losses. So I understand that partners might be hesitant to incorporate E&Y Germany into their firm, like centralizing it. But I think the amount of collaboration that'll happen will be way better because clients are multinational or global. The Big Four is global, but not really because they're super regional. Even in the United States, there are regions, and partners within those regions don't collaborate very well with partners of other regions because they have to revenue share. They don't like revenue sharing because it affects their bonus. And what it ends up being worse client service because a lot of the times partners won't take ownership. They'll ask the client to deal with multiple partners, to have a different call with multiple partners, and the client ends up organizing their service providers versus the service providers organizing themselves to face the client. So to me, this makes more sense. I think it's actually innovative in the Big Four accounting firms. I disagree with the accounting professor, but I would disagree with a lot of accounting professors on a lot of things because I don't think accounting professors are that useful. But I think this is a really good move. Whether or not, and I think another thing too that it changes is it makes partners be more responsible because a lot of these partners, they're the head honcho in their region and they're not held liable by other partners. But now that they're all on the hook and they can keep an eye on each other, they can have more meetings where they discuss issues and they tell each other what they need to do to reduce liability and keep each other honest. And maybe they can get rid of partners in other regions if it works this way. So I think this is actually good news for E&Y and the Big Four accounting firms, despite what might be on the internet. And I'm interested. I think this needs to happen globally. It probably won't just because of legal reasons and international laws. But I think it would be better because most clients are global and they're more integrated globally than the Big Four accounting firms. So I think the Big Four accounting firms are long overdue for becoming more integrated versus the old regional partnership model that they currently use. The old regional partnership model makes sense for smaller accounting firms. And it made sense for the Big Four accounting firms as they stayed regional and as companies stayed regional. But now that companies are growing are more integrated and using technology. The big four accounting firms have to catch up, and E&Y is just the first one doing it. So that's the podcast for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date. Support us financially through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this podcast. And if you can't do that, then subscribe to our YouTube channel, Big Four Accounting Firms. Thanks for listening.